Hey guys, it's your girl Kizzy Rock, and yes, Kizzy Rock is my birth given name. Happy Saturday, guys. Want to say hey to all my subscribers, new as well as seasoned. Got a word for you. Tap in. Happy Saturday, guys. Happy second recording, actually. I want to respond to a couple of emails within this one recording. I'm still driving, actually, and I will tag this link to you, my friend, in case you missed it. So I want to talk really quickly about when you can't see the promise, someone who's struggling there. And then someone asked me about my thoughts on Kanye West. I think they saw a community post a few days ago. Okay, my good sis who you're struggling because you cannot see anything that makes sense in regards to the promise that God have told you. Sis, I'm going to be honest with you here. When God gives you promises, I don't know, maybe not all, but a lot of the times, especially like if they're larger scale promises, nothing in the physical realm adds up and aligns with it. It wouldn't make sense. You have to shift your mind to supernatural, understanding that God does not work on just a natural realm. Yeah, he may start moving and shifting people to open certain doors for you, etc., but you have to believe the promise before you see anything manifest in the physical realm. Your faith has to be so locked in on what God has told you. That is not to say that you won't have days of doubts, right? Days of wanting to give up. In fact, you're going to want to give up many days. And this is why your mind is going to have to be locked on faith, on the supernatural, right? You have to grasp it in the spiritual realm. When you grasp it in the spiritual realm and you stand firm on what God has said to you, and that means taking your attacks. That means sitting in seasons of delays. That means sitting in seasons of isolation, etc. Regardless of what you're going through at the time, your mind got to still be tunnel vision and locked on what he said to you. This is a time as well that you got to be very, very careful who you're sharing certain things with. During certain seasons or during certain revelations, I don't say anything to anybody. It just depends. To anybody. Because when it's a supernatural blessing, it doesn't make sense in the physical realm. So when you're trying to explain to someone something that God has said to you and the things that you need to do to move along the journey to reach destiny, people will think you are insane if they're not able to grasp how God works on the spiritual realm. I'm fortunate enough to have a couple of people in my lives who they understand the supernatural realm. So if I call them or if I get a conviction, most times I get a conviction not to say anything, and then I'll get a revelation to say, okay, well, you're good right now. So now I need you to say this, right? Because right here, I need you to get some input. I need you to get someone to stand in agreement with you, right? So I'm fortunate enough to have those people. And because they understand how God works in the spiritual realms, when I call them, they're like, listen, if that's what he said, boo, do it, right? Because I'm in the same place, or I've been there as well, and I know how God works. But if you don't have friends or people in your lives, anybody, friends, family, spouses, whoever, if they're not in a position to understand how God works on the supernatural realm, they are going to, and not even intentionally, right? They're going to say things that's going to discourage you, and before you know it, you're going to think that, well, maybe that isn't God. But you got to be locked. Gotta have tunnel vision. I'm a visionary, and I do believe sometimes visionaries kind of have, like, I don't want to say an advantage, that's not the word I'm trying to think about, but we do have this, because we can see it, we know what it is, and we know God's track record, so we know what it is. We have the disadvantage because we can see it and we want it when we see it, and not understanding the process that we have to go through in order to achieve it. But if he said it, sis, it is. If he said it, it doesn't mean it's tomorrow. If he said it, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. I think I read that only 20% of people reach destiny in the sense of their God-given or destiny, because most people give up, most people X, Y, and Z. Listen, it's hard. But when I tell you that anything I've ever achieved in my life, even in my current season now, there were supernatural things that nothing in the physical realm could have opened the door. Yes, again, after a certain period of time, God will use a person to say something, open the door. But this is after the fact, after the blessing itself has manifested. So it's true, God will use people at times, but that's just to, see, you can't get locked on the person. And that's what we can go wrong at, because it's easier to rely or trust a person versus trusting we can't see. So if God uses a person to open a certain door, it may just be specifically to open a door. It might be specifically to give a word to the next person. It might be specifically to, I don't know, get you through some paperwork, whatever. But once that is, and God says, I need you to kind of I need you to pull away from that person, and I need you to get back focused on me, that becomes difficult. Because again, you got to press back into faith to understand, all right, if God says move them, I got to move them. Right? I don't know how it's going to happen after I move them, but that's where your faith has to come in there. Every single thing that I can think of right now that I consider to be on a larger scale, things that God had promised me, it only happened because I know what God said. Even when I had people who may not have agreed with it, they couldn't tap into it, I've always been good at marching to the beat of my own drum. Meaning, listen, I respect what you say. Honestly, if you say you don't think that's God, I promise you, I respect that. No hard feelings. I still love you the same. But it will never, ever, 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 or has ever shifted my thinking on the revelation that God had for me. And as I stood firm, right, through attacks, through trials, through delays, through abandonments, through rejection, all that stuff, right? As long as I stood planted on what God said, everything that God has ever spoken has came to pass. Promise you. So take your eyes off of the physical world. Lock back into what God said. Whatever that revelation he gave to you, and whatever way you received it, you gotta stay locked. Let nobody change that, because only you know what you felt. It's only for you to grasp it. Prepare yourself in advance, because I'm telling you now, especially depends on the size of the blessings. Go ahead and prepare yourself and understand that you're going to be attacked. You're going to have delays. You're going to have frustrations. You're going to have times you pack up your bags and go. But God's going to convict you so hard, and you're going to have to, boom, lock back on to the revelation. So it's a journey, sis. It really is. But please don't give up, because most people do. Hope that helps you. My thoughts on Kanye West. Okay, let me be clear here. I understand that Kanye have said some things in regards to some disrespect within our community, as well as the family of George Floyd. I'm not clueless to that, right? He was very disrespectful, as well as slavery was a choice, and he's going through it now himself. Okay, so I'm not excluding that form of disrespect when he says. I'm a person who can filter out things and grab the meat, where some people get locked on the negative and they can't grasp any of the meat, right? He's a jackrabbit, right? Okay, whatever. He was wrong, yes. Kanye is speaking so much truth, and people are missing it. A lot of people are now catching on, because now if you look at the comments, let's say from a month ago or whatever, everybody thought he was crazy, X, Y, and Z, blase, 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 he's lost his mind. But now, if you realize, these comments have now shifted. For one, he's being a little more clearer, and he's being more, he's always expressive, but it seems like it's more order, right? And he's speaking truth. Let me tell you, and I can't, I'm going to try to speak without speaking too much, if you will, because sometimes YouTube will flag the videos if there's certain words or topics or whatever. So I'm going to try to just talk in code, if you will. But listen, a lot of people do not understand how the lifestyle behind the scenes of celebrities work. That system is so demonic, and all we get to see is what's on the screen. All we get to see is the glitz and the glamour and the money and the X, Y, and Z, right? The music on the radio, the whatever. We get to see what they want us to see, and we're asleep. All we see is the glitz and the glamour. We're asleep, right? But people are waking up now. But it's deeper than just Kanye. So what I said on the community post was, some people need to be grateful and thankful that if they ever wanted into that lifestyle, that the contract never fell through. Kanye said in a recording recently how certain celebrities, now let's be clear, this is not every celebrity. We're talking about the elites of the elites. I'm not going to call any names, but the elites of the elites. We're not talking about just your normal R&B singer or your, no, the elites of the elites. This is who we're speaking about. When you see some people can't really climb the ladders and they really should have been on certain levels, it's because they refuse to sell their soul. So this is why you can see people who are more talented, but they've never been able to climb the ladders as the ones who we consider to be, quote unquote, superstars. They refuse to sell their soul. Well, there are a lot of them who are the more elites. They've done some things and it opened doors for them. Do your research on who runs the music industry. Just do your research. In fact, in the community page, I said one channel that will really open your eyes is it's a YouTube channel called The Truth Is. Listen, dude is so spot on. And he really sit down to have meetings with attorneys of celebrities, etc., etc. He's spot on. So many people are trapped in bondage from their contracts. Do you know how many people who've been in the game for a very, very long time, and the only reason why they're still working is because they're tied up in these contracts? They're in debt. They're in red with their contracts. So yeah, you still see them on stage. You still see them doing this and that. And half of the time, sometimes they're not even taking this money home, right? Unless it's on tour and things like that. But when it comes down to certain things, they're trying to play catch up. But yet they're showing us the glitz and the glamour of the lifestyle. And these people, again, not everybody, are depressed and miserable and blowing their brains out because the money is not making them happy, because most of the times they've already sold their souls. Now, that's not to exclude Kanye, because Kanye at some point, or even now, is one of the elites of the elites. So does that exclude him? Probably not. But everybody changes. Is God pressing certain things on him now? Is he the one called to really expose this dark industry? Could be. Kanye is really, really, truly risking his life. Truly. So he said a lot in the recent video that he made in regards to how he can speak about what he want to speak about, because he never, quote unquote, murdered anybody. He never did X, Y, and Z. So he was saying that that's why a lot of the elites can't speak on certain things like how he speak. I think he named Shaq, LeBron, Beyonce, Jay-Z, These are names that he threw out there, or whatever the case may be. A lot of the time when people first enter their contracts, sometimes Hollywood get these people caught up in some crazy stuff. Almost like some type of initiation. Something crazy, right? Use your imagination. Something crazy. And then they tend to hold that stuff over their head when the individual realizes that they're in the upside down contract, or if they have just, again, maybe how Kanye is having just a change of mind because you're getting older. Maybe you've discovered God along the way, and now you realize the stuff you did was all demonic, and now you're trying to do anything in your power to try to get closer to God and hopefully, repent and expel all that nonsense that you were initially a part of. But with many of them, it's so much stuff that they have over their head. What happened to MJ when he tried to start pulling away on his contract, right? That's when you started to hear all about the children, the molestation, things like that. A lot of the times when people start to try to pull away, because either they realize that they're in an upside down contract and they're realizing that really they're only getting 10, if that sometimes, 10, 12% of everything they make. And now they want out, or they want to go independent, or whatever. They start to threaten them, right? Like Kanye said, this is why you see a lot of people come up missing. This is why you see a lot of people getting killed, and they tell us one way, or the person got killed this way, they died this way, they committed suicide this way. Listen. Not to say that never happens, but listen. Right? So I was having a conversation with my little brother, my youngest brother. He's very, very another deep thinker. I love having conversations with him, and we were just vibing and talking about this very topic right now. And we were just saying how so many people really broke down because they got rejected, or a label didn't sign them, and didn't even know God was protecting them the whole time. These people are trapped. They're trapped. And again, this is not everybody. Let's be clear here. Let's be clear. This is not everybody, right? They're trapped and they can't even get out. You're trying to get out, and they're threatening to expose things that they had you to do just to initially come in. There's levels to this thing. This is why you can see they would have LeBron talk about something, but Jay-Z is not forced to talk about it. And I use the word force. Jay-Z isn't forced to talk about it. There's levels to it. Some will be forced to say certain things. Some have already climbed certain levels in different ways that now excludes them, where they can just chill and they can make calls. This thing is deep, that people are so focused on, the surface level things. I truly believe this, I know this is a season where the wealth transfer is happening. God's people are going to experience wealth transfer. This season we're in, as much as people want to make it seem like it's about race, which it's always been about race. There's always been racial tension. There's always been races, whatever, always, right? To me, this season is way more deeper than race. This is about good versus evil. The evil is being uprooted. This is why Hollywood is upside down. This is why people are getting exposed. They're going to jail. They're blowing their brains out. There are all this college scandals of all the stuff that your money once did, right? All this evilness that you're doing, and you're making billions of dollars and giving these people crumbs, and then you're threatening them and you're exposing them. When they're waking up and they realize like they were desperate just to get a deal so they can take care of their family, and now you're doing all this nonsense and all this foolishness you got going on. Your time is up. Your time is up. So if God has to use Kanye to be the person who starts to open that conversation, now you're going to have a lot of celebrities who are not going to back him. You got to also remember, now these people lifestyle is on the line. As you hear people who are, calling LeBron a sellout and this person a sellout and all the stuff like that. Okay, I get it. I really get it. I do, truly, right? But you got to remember, this is how they feed their family as well. So now you got somebody, some head honcho who's telling them, listen, you have to speak out against your teammate. If not, you see what we did to Kanye? Kanye went from, what, a couple of billions down to 400 million, which is still a lot, but still, down to 4. You see what happened to Kanye? They allowed that stuff to happen to Kanye just to hold that to show everybody else, listen, get out of hand, and the same thing will happen to you. So we need you to speak about this. Do we really have a choice? Yeah, but at the same time, can't even think right now. But so this thing is deep, guys. But I just pray, that God covers Kanye, and if this is what God has called him to do, Kanye said he feels God has called him to do it. If this is what God has called Kanye to do, right? As much as he's risking himself right now, because he's really, 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 really exposing some things. Each video, he seems to expose more and more. If God has caused Kanye to start this process in order for all evil to be uprooted, in order to potentially help others gain ground to speak up or to take stand against, the bondage that they're in, even if it's for the next generation, even if it's opening other people's eyes to stop trying to break into this industry, all because of money and X, Y, and Z, and if it makes somebody have a second thought about it, then it's all worth it. So those are my thoughts, guys. I'm not excusing the fact that Kanye can be an a-hole at times, right? He's arrogant, But Kanye is not crazy. Speaking of crazy, that's another thing that they do. When you're trying to break out, they make people think you're crazy. How many big-time celebrities and elites that they have literally made it? Look at Britney Spears, okay? They make you crazy. They ain't call you crazy. So this thing is deep. It's deep. So those are my thoughts. I can go on and on and on and on, but I'll just say this. Kanye is not crazy as they're trying to make him seem to be. And if you were a person trying to get up in that lifestyle, that Hollywood lifestyle, just thank God that your contract was denied. It's your girl.